Good evening. Yes, what I would like to do is to raise some questions after we've seen these three presentations and performance of the technologies. Most of these presentations were very positive about what these technologies could do, and there are a lot of positive aspects about it. I see it as my task to raise some critical questions regarding the technologies, and I would like to put these technologies in the context of mobile technologies and mobile media in general, because I think it's this wearable technology is part of that and it deserves some reflection. Now we're going to have a discussion about that, so I don't need to put forward a complete story here. What I would like to do is to just give you some themes to think about and some themes also for the discussion. So first of all, what I wondered when I read about these things, when I've seen these things, also before these presentations, was always if people share a lot of personal information on the internet, why do they do that? So I'm not so much worried about the fact that actually someone can read it and could misuse or abuse the information or the person, but I'm just wondering, what motivates people to put a lot of their private stuff, private feelings, what they're doing at the moment, how they lead their daily lives. What motivates them to put that on the internet in various forums, through various platforms, using various technologies? And Twittering is one of these technologies, and the wearable technologies are connected to that also do that. So they put in the public domain all this private information. It might be what we observe is that it's mainly a thing that happens that young people do it. So research so far shows that it's young people, not very young people. Actually, people who are Twittering range from say 18 to 30 or 34, but not older, but also not younger. So it's kind of that generation. But why? Why is this necessary, or why do people feel this urge? Also, why do we want to stay connected? It's also something social network sites promote. It's something Twittering promotes. All kind of communication technologies promote. And why do we have the need to stay connected with friends even when we are away? You could say, I'm going on a holiday. Let's enjoy that holiday, and why do I need to be connected with these people? I think it's thought that's often no longer questioned. So the advertisement of these companies actually works very well. Why does it work very well? Why do people want this constant, continuous communication throughout the day? Now, to put this in perspective, one could see this as a change in our thinking about public and private. In a modern framework, a modern way of thinking, for example, modern liberalism, there is a sharp divide between the private and the public domain. Basically, what is private you keep to yourself, you keep behind the closed door of your homes. You keep between your friends in a cafe, for example, perhaps also between people who email with one another. But you don't put this information in the public domain, because the public domain is a domain where you talk about politics, where you talk about things that are important for all of us, but you don't bother people with what you do, and other people have no business with the things you do. But we see that this changes. You can also see it in politics, that the private is much more important now. It matters more what people do in their private lives next to the political acts they do. We want to know what President Obama does between his speeches. We want to know about celebrities. All this is in the public domain, but the public becomes actually disappears as an autonomous sphere. There is the public and the private that are mixed together. It's a hybrid sphere. So again, I'm wondering why this happens, and I'm happy if you help me with that. What I also see is that that there's a kind of dominance, not to say terror, of the present. It's not so much important to tell stories how things came about or to think about future. What is important is to let other people know what's happening right now. Right now I'm doing this, right now I'm doing that. And coupled with that, the importance of the ordinary, something which we see also in the history of art during at least the last 2 centuries. So the ordinary becomes important. We're no longer interested in something that can be very, very special, something that goes beyond the world we know. No, we just want to know what are you doing? Oh, you're attending a meeting. Oh, you're chairing this session. Oh, you know, that's what we want to know, or what this generation wants to know. And we're no longer interested in things that go beyond that daily, ordinary life, whatever that means. So, if this is happening, we could ask: does this have to do with the fact that indeed we use these technologies because we've become more mobile, because the distance between us has become larger? This distance has become larger, and the paradox is that if we use these technologies to stay connected, if we use all kind of mobile technologies, if we use infrastructures of mobility, if we travel everywhere, we have all these transportation systems, all these communication systems, this actually increases that kind of lifestyle. It promotes distance. So the paradox is that responding to distance, we create ways to come closer again, but this actually promotes a lifestyle of distance. So is this a problem? Well, again, maybe it isn't such a big problem. Some people tell me, for example, if you're before people, young people would hang around somewhere at a physical place. Now they hang around in some kind of virtual environment, in an environment created by a program like Twitter, like social network sites. What's wrong with that? What's the difference? So I would like you to think about that. Is there a difference? Is it bad that it happens in this way today? Another question I had: if people wear the kind of shirts we've seen, the clothes we've seen, why do we actually follow the leading demand for commodification that's in a capitalist system? Capitalist system says you have to. The current capitalist system says you have to turn your identity into objects, yeah, and because objects they can be sold, and in this way value is created. Why is it necessary to express your identity in this way? Can't we do that in another way? Why do we need this material objects in a free market system? Then finally, we also have always an urge to have new things, and again, I would like to put this in the context of our the current form of our capitalist system. That, of course, the market always it's necessary to always put new products on the market, so again, people will buy it, and to convince people that they need it. Of course, you can say, well, but people want these things, like the hug shirt and so on. But then again, the question comes: why do they want that? So it's my remark is not to blame people who put this on the market. My remark is about why is there the demand, or why can the demand be created? So why do we want this and want to continue these lifestyles of distance, and you could say life distance proximity. So I hope I've given some questions to think about.
Don't go away, please sit down. Can I invite the other guests and artists to the stage to talk about these questions? That's cozy. Mark, you touched a lot of topics that are really interesting. Let's start by the first question you asked about why do we share information?
So we're hugging already.
Yeah, no, you should. I was wondering, what do you think? Why it's important that people will buy the hug shirt? It's important that the Twitter shirt is a lot about information. So why do we share this information, and why should we use technology to share information? Is it something you think about while you're designing your objects? The reason why people should use it?
I just think that basically our society is mediated by technology, but I do not think that using technology is mandatory. So it's sort of like, I mean, we have this technology and we can make a very good use of it, but if you think about even the computer, and like if you think about sending an email to your best friend, it's not that you are typing the email inside your computer because you're in love with your computer, right? You're just typing the email because it's the best way to reach a friend that is somewhere else and is not there with you physically. So I just think that it's mediated by the technology, but it's not that we, at all costs, need to have technology. And of course, at that point, if you really need to have it, it has to be well designed so that people don't get frustrated with it. I mean, it should make people's life better instead that's more complicated. So that's sort of my mantra. But I think it's sort of like, it's interesting because I mean, we as like designers or artists are experimenting with all the media that is available to us today. So if you think about someone doing a similar project for people interaction 120 years ago, they might have come up with something else, but because the technology that they had 120 years ago was very different from what we have now. So it's sort of just like using the tools that we have available and trying to make the most of it, if they are really useful. If they're not, then we can just leave them behind, but yeah.
Yeah, I just had an addition to the beginning, writing an email to a friend. You don't do that on the keyboard because you like the keyboard so much, and this. I'm not so sure about it because sometimes there's this whole or just let's put it in another example. I'm sure there are people who much more like to touch their iPhone than maybe other humans. I mean, I can't imagine that. I mean, it's the technology-driven society that's a quite big thing, and it's not. I would not like totally oppose it, but it's the question you posed is quite a good question, I think so. And there is a lot about that people go into technology and do it just for doing it for the technology. I mean, it's...
So are you saying like it's much easier to just Twitter something rather than actually go and meet someone in person, have a coffee with them, because maybe you don't actually like them, but you can fake it with, with
No, what I'm trying to say is that like that big part of that people who spend a lot of time with technology are like more or less are also in love and sometimes also in hate relationship with the technology, you know that too. But it is, technology is per se something good because it can help us, and often it distracts us a lot. So I think it's a good thing to look at it very precisely, and I'm always trying with this. I'm in other projects, I'm trying to point out that there's a very big difference in sitting in a cafe or twittering a message to a friend. Like, we do communicate with friends, and that's there's a connection, yeah, definitely, but it is a big difference if you're sitting with another person in a room or not. And some people tend sometimes to forget that, or spend their whole day on Facebook and think they are totally in contact with everybody. It's like, I think we have to learn there a lot still.
I think it's not just because of the technology. Like you were saying, the iPhone, people just really want to touch it because it's sexy and it's cool. But I don't think they just want to use their iPhone to send the message to their friend because it looks cool to have an iPhone, and it is because the iPhone is sort of latches onto the sort of people need to feel like they belong to something. And since you want to belong to the cool people group, then you get your iPhone to send your text messages to your friends. So it's not just that you love the iPhone, you love to look cool when you text message your friends.
Sure,
I mean, it's just like, it's sort of like you are transferring your emotion to this object. There is a very interesting book, I think it's called Simplicity, by John Maeda, that is, was once the chair of MIT Media Lab. Now it's just teaching there, but it's not anymore the chair. And he has this like very interesting chapter that is all about the iPod and about the very tiny ones. And it's because people love them, not just because they're really good at playing music. That is not their characteristic. They love them because they're so small and so friendly looking and so easy to use that people have an emotional attachment, like if it is a Tamagotchi or a pet. So the idea that you love your technology is sort of like you're transferring your emotion to it. So that's why I'm like sort of so interested in exploring the emotion, and I just think the technology is your transfer, like media, to go do that.
Could you say that those devices also help building your identity, like you're saying, like it's important that you belong to a group, that somebody sees you with your iPhone. So there's a kind of identity linkage to the device you're using. But could you also say that it also changes the message you're sending? Mm-hmm. And do you think it can go both ways? It can be altering it in a better way. How do you, for your own device, how do you think, zeg maar, how do you think your hugging clothing will alter in a good way interaction?
Going to make people more outgoing also when they meet in person. No, but I think it's really, I think it's really interesting that you sort of have, I don't know, it's like, it's not, I don't really love the technology unless it really comes in handy. So I'm sort of like, you want to say something?
Maybe I want to say something here, because here you actually, when you talk about perception and identity, and you deal with actually garments, and you deal with accessories and so forth, they have their own personality already. They actually, communicate already by wearing them a very distinct message to the audience, to whoever sees you. So it's basically you mediate through what you wear, but then you might also mediate through whatever message you technically want to enhance or give. So I think it's a combination. So sooner or later, people will read both. They will read your physical appearance because you wear something, but then they will also have this virtual, quote unquote, information transfer. So I think we actually almost go back to the age or move forward, I'm not sure, but where we basically combine the virtuality and the reality and create a completely new perception of ourselves and how people perceive us, how other people perceive us. So I think that's going to be the interesting issue. So, not the iPhone is sexy, but what I wear is sexy,
Exactly. I want to go into the next topic, but maybe there are questions in the audience, because it's not because they're on the stage that you cannot say anything. So, I have a question.
I just had this association of what will happen when we combine the hug T-shirt with social sciences telling parents how to raise their children, and basically ending up with a statistic, to hug your child so many times a day. And so, how do you see this combination of knowledge production in the social sciences and social techniques related to technology developments?
One of the interesting things one of the interesting things about the hug shirt is that we've gotten a lot of response from the autistic community. There was a girl, I think, that she developed years ago a device that basically squeezed her. It was like a giant book that she would sort of close herself in, and she was autistic, and it calmed her. And since we've been showing the hug shirt, a lot of people with autistic children have come up and say, "This is great. This is exactly what I need," because touching and hugging my child really calms him or her down. And this is something that we had no idea. We were like, "What?" I didn't know anything about autism until we started talking with these people. And when they would first approach us, I was a little bit cautious. Because I didn't want to be like a snake oil salesman, you know what I mean? Like, here's this great new thing, it's going to save your life, or make things so much easier, because having autistic children is a really big, is a lot of weight to carry. So, in answer to your question, that's one thing that we're interested in, and in addition to autism, there's also some Parkinson's researchers that are interested in looking at things, and teachers that teach to blind students think that it could be a good way to communicate in classrooms, for example. And but all of those things are at this point in the box of kind of like, we don't know, but it looks interesting. So we're going to check it out for sure, because I hope that it could be a solution for those things as well. So yeah, but I think once we have those answers, that information is going to be very valuable.
I just actually have a short comment, because I find it so weird that all these uses of the hug shirt seem so much more important than the use of sending a hug. So how come that our society allowed a hug shirt to be first invented, and then to put in a box idea of helping the blind children or Parkinson's, or it's really weird. It's totally the opposite of how things should go. And sometimes I think that we, I don't know, I find it a problem.
I think that's the nature of design research. You end up starting in one direction, and either through the input of people that you're testing with, or part of if you're in a multidisciplinary team, people will start saying, "Wait a minute, I think that's also a solution in this other area." So where designs end up often has nothing to do with where they started.
Yeah, also, I think also it's about like economics, like the sort of like the economics of scale. If you like think about products like that, for example, if you develop the product like just for fun and personal entertainment, you have a different testing period cycle than what you would have for developing the shirt to use with autistic children. Because then you have to make tests in hospitals and clinics. You have to make sure you have access to the autistic children and they don't get stressed. So I think it's sort of like there is a sort of an economy of scale that it makes it really expensive to experiment with all the children in the hospitals, or all the blind people, or all the Parkinson patients. So the thing that is much easier to do is that, since that for personal entertainment, we sort of are in the realm of video gaming. So you have the Nintendo Wii, then you can have a hug shirt, right? And so there is much more ease in developing the application and bringing to a mass marketable standard, as like all the system and the electronics and the execution and the sort of like putting the garment together. And then after you've done this step that makes it available to everybody, then you can just diverge your interest and make it available for all the other fields, so that they do not suffer for the economic strain that you would have to put into developing for a specific market like healthcare that is really, really expensive to develop for. So it's sort of really like waiting the right time. So that, and also as us as the company, like we are more into the fashion and personal entertainment area, but we have like some patents on these technologies that we are very happy to license to healthcare companies and help them bring to the product to market under their own brand name. So it's a sort of very interesting because I think like it's the platform, and then once we develop the platform that makes it cheaper to buy, then everybody's going to be happy also in the other fields. So it's not that we're boxing them because we are nasty. It's just we're waiting for more nice economic conditions to do it.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to change of topic, because I was thinking about the concept of value-centered design. The idea of that you have an application and you have you put in values you want to be accomplished. So and Aram, you talked about privacy, Twitter as a privacy-invading application. Which values do you think, especially because on privacy, do you think that privacy isn't important anymore? Maybe we should just get rid of privacy. Maybe we don't care.
Yeah, I think that these two big movements now going on, that on one hand that the governments or like the authorities turning, in a lot of countries it's turning into this big brother state, or it's coming closer to that since 9/11, and on the other hand we have this whole web community, social network development where people give a lot of information away for free anyway and give it to the companies because the service is for free, and then the company can do things with the content. And for me it's not quite clear what the solution is, but it is, I mean, in that sense like society becomes more transparent, but I also like try to take care not to be too private. I think somehow, like when you do it or when you're in there, you can it's creates a lot of power like for yourself, and it creates a lot of the connectedness. The whole information feed thing is could be very helpful, and on but the price you pay is like being in public there, and if you don't show your pictures or your stuff, then you will not get any feedback. So
there's also pressure, isn't there?
Yeah, it is like
to join these networks, and if you don't put too much information about yourself, then people wonder, now why isn't he or she doing that?
Well, also, you know, I also definitely think this is a generational thing. This isn't a typical age thing. I mean, if you look at certain generations, in particular, you know, dealing with generations that are a little bit younger than us, then they don't have a problem of really basically putting a lot of information about themselves out. But at the same time, the information that is put out is also controlled by them versus information that cannot be controlled. So I think that is the issue. Like, what type of information can we put out? If we put it out and we control it, you know, then it's fine. If it's information that is then getting out of control, basically out of hand, then I think that's where we have an issue. I think any generation does.
But it's changing in that sense right now, that we are learning right now that everything you put out now will be stored forever. I mean, it's forever, ever. But just pictures or something I said 2 years ago will be Google finds it all. I mean, it's quite hard to get rid of that stuff. And this is something. This is a process right now where people learn, I think. But in general, the question, like the transparent society, how transparent should we be or not to be in this whole nothing to hide topic? It's difficult.
Yeah, I think also it's learning how to create your own identity online, basically. I think it's also something that, you know, the longer you have been doing this, the more you are like, you know, the more knowledge you have about how to do this. But there's definitely a lot of, like Aaron was saying, a lot of stuff out there that, you know, you might have put up or somebody else might have put up, and you can't get rid of it anymore.
And can you think about privacy-enhancing fashionable technologies? Because now we see, like with the Twitter shirt, we see a privacy-invasive technology. But I can think about some clothing that's privacy-enhancing. You have the blow-up shirt. It's a kind of privacy. But
there was this very long article in a German magazine lately about this whole face recognition thing, and which is very big, and they're really about to step into the total control thing on AirPods and everywhere, and technology is far ahead in recognizing your face. And I had this image of, okay, not wearing a mask, like we could all wear the same mask to hide us, but just to hide some small implants on the important dots where you are recognized, or something. Like, I can imagine that this could happen, like modifications just for these systems which are out there. Maybe that's like a...
But exactly to that same point, I have actually 2 consecutive projects by various students that are dealing with the fact that if you take a picture, it's basically distorted. So you can't. So if somebody wants to take a picture of you, it basically flashes back. So it's again, you know, the hiding the identity, or not. If I don't want you to take a picture of me, like you can't basically.
Are there any questions in the audience about privacy? Nobody cares about privacy. Oh yeah, in the back.
I've heard a lot of questions and lots of answers, but what I still would like to know for you as developers, what obstructs you from making all this lovely technology available for me in the shops the same way I bought my cell phone and the shirts I'm wearing now?
What stops people like us from putting the technology you see there into a shop so you can buy it tomorrow?
Oh, we're working on it.
As soon as possible.
Just give us another couple of months, okay?
Let's go for it, right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for answering them and thinking about those topics. I'm going to end this debate, but if you like this kind of debates, you can also come to Arminius. Next month we have, I'll say it first in Dutch. Wat een onzin. It goes, what a bullshit. Yeah, I can't really translate it. Nonsense, oh, that's a better word. And it's about the rise of spiritualism, commercial spiritualism. Think about Sharp and the baby whisperer. What does it mean for our identity, for our interaction? So it's not about technology, but still it's quite interesting. So I would think that you can all come there. Yeah, thank you all for coming. And I think I'll give the floor to Michel for his final remarks. Thank you.